Alright guys, welcome back to the channel, and this is the Red Shadow, and I'm back for my monthly Roundup video. Going to try to get this back on schedule at the end-ish of every month or the very beginning of the next month. I'll do a video that covers games I've played, games I've beat, movies and TV shows that I've watched, etc., etc. You know, books and all that kind of stuff if I ever go back to reading. I just don't give myself enough time to do everything that I want to do, and books have been one of the things that I've sacrificed. So I got stuff spread out here. I'll show these things. As long as I've got the actual thing to show, I'll show them here for these videos. And so I will start in the TV movie category because there's very little to show here. I've been trying to maintain a complete watch through of the entirety of the X-Files, and I am currently in season 9. This is from the big box set. Has all the discs for season 9. I am currently about halfway through, or a little bit further than halfway through season 9. I stopped before the episode that's called Jump the Shark. If you know anything about the X-Files, that is an episode that centers around the lone gunman, which was the three friends of Mulder's, longtime friends of Mulder's, Byers, Langley, and Frohickey. And they got a spin-off show, which is what I'm currently watching right now. I want to finish the 13 episodes. Yeah, the 13 episodes that this series ran that ended with the episode called Jump the Shark in season 9 of the X-Files, because the show got canceled. I did want to... I've talked a lot about the X-Files here and there on my channel. I want to talk about the Lone Gunman here real quick. As much as I love the trio here, and I was all for the idea of them getting their own show. This is the first time I've watched through the series in a lot of years, and I'm 5 or 6 episodes through this. I don't think this was really necessary, and I don't feel bad that this got canceled. The gunmen, in my opinion, are amazing characters and worked very well in the show. There was some good comic relief, but they were also really good, strong allies of Mulder and Scully. And I think, as opposed to seeing a spin-off show like this, I would have much rather have seen the gunmen appear in maybe an episode or 2 more each season of the show. I think that would have complemented their presence in the show and the way they fit into the series. Giving them their own show, because see, their show is a lot more secret agent, spy, and espionage stuff. Even down to the theme song of the show just sounds like it was derivative of something from like James Bond or Mission Impossible. I just don't think that it really served well. I think it's also partly because too much of a good thing can be a bad thing, and the lone gunman, just seeing them in every episode kind of spoils what makes them so charming and special in the X-Files. I also have a problem with, they added 2 like original characters to the show. They're on the back here. Eve Adele Harlow, which is an anagram for Lee Harvey Oswald, so obviously not her true identity, and Jimmy Bond. Hilarious that they even named a character in the show after James Bond. But I really like her character. She works well in the show. I like this actor, and I think he does a really good job, but I just don't like the character of Jimmy Bond. He's kind of dumb. He's kind of hokey. He's too much. It's like, I guess it's, the thought is when you have 3 characters that provide comic relief in the X-Files, and then you give them their own show, then somebody else has to be the goofy one, and I just didn't care much for that. So I'll be happy to get through this and get back into the rest of the series proper so that I can go to the second movie in the 10th and 11th seasons and finish up. I started watching X-Files for this watch through last October. It was supposed to be part of my Halloween group of things. Watch some scary movies, or a suspenseful show and play some scary games. And the watch through the X-Files has taken me through almost a full year. Then I had several times where I just dipped out for weeks, month or more at a time, especially when I got into seasons 8 and 9. I don't think that that's necessarily because seasons 8 and 9 are not as good as the rest of the show, or if it was just other stuff going on with me and I just stopped watching for a bit. So now I'm trying to power through, get it all watched, hopefully before the end of this month. So, like I said, that's it for TVs and movies. I didn't watch any movies. I haven't watched any actual movies in quite a while. But games, I've been trying to keep up as much as I can. So I've got a stack of stuff that I'm playing or have played a little bit of, and then a smaller selection of games that I beat in the month of August. So we'll start with the stuff I've been playing or I'm still currently playing. And the first thing I'm going to show here, surprisingly enough maybe, is WWE 2K20. Now, I've got videos on my channel about how much I love wrestling, but how I've kind of fallen out of love with it, and so I'm not really paying much attention to it. But I still like to play the games because I have some creative control within these. But this is 2K20. This is the last mainline WWE 2K game that has come out. There would have been a 21 last year, but this one was a big old pile of shit. The main developers, Ukes, had left the series after 20 plus years to do their own thing, which apparently is going to be an AEW game. And Visual Concepts was a supplemental team, a support team that had worked on these games for a long time. They got thrust up to being the lead developer on this title, and when this game came out, it was riddled with problems. All kinds of bugs, graphical glitches, issues galore. I always wait on these wrestling games until they're cheap, so I didn't play it at launch. It has been patched, and it's, from my experience with it, it's a better game. I say that, like I said, I didn't play the original version of it. I saw the crazy videos on YouTube that showed how bad things were going with it, but I have played it, like I said, over the course of the last month a few times, and I like it. I've had no glitches or bugs to speak of. Where there's a downgrade in quality for me has been in a lot of the faces of the wrestlers. Some of them are horrific, like bad. I don't know how they ended up being so bad, because on a lot of these games they're usually really, really good. I've downloaded a bunch of created wrestlers off the internet of people doing such a better job than what the developers of this game did. So that's a down point. One of the things I have enjoyed so far with this is one of the modes, which is the My Career mode. Usually in My Career mode, you create a wrestler, and then there's some sort of a storyline-based thing of them coming up through the indies and earning their way onto the main roster and winning some championships, and usually culminating by being in the main event of WrestleMania. In this one, you get to pick two characters. You create two wrestlers, a male and a female. And I thought, this is going to be weird having such a, like, I'm going to control this guy while he's doing his thing, and then we're going to switch over to this lady here. But no, they're actually, like, I would call them like high school sweethearts who both had a dream to get into wrestling, her more than him, but they both get into it, and then you create them, and then you take over them on the night that they're being inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame, and then they start talking to other wrestlers, reminiscing about their career and thinking back to certain moments along the way, and then that's when you take over and you control them when they're wrestling at a Canadian, independent wrestling thing, and then they go to Memphis, and then they go on to this and that. And there's voice acting for the wrestlers that you run into, but the voice acting for the two characters that you do, one of the things I'd forgotten about, but I really enjoyed it, is the female wrestler is voiced by, I believe her name is Kylie Brown. I wish I would have looked that up before I sat down to do this, but she did the voice of Rachel in Life is Strange Before the Storm. And some of the after I played that earlier this year, I watched some stuff online, and I actually saw some videos from around the time that she was working on this, and she mentioned that she was going to be in a game that was like a bigger game, which of course, unfortunately, it turned out to be this, which had a lot of notoriety behind it. But it was just really cool to hear her voice, and I like the creativity of having the two people that you're being as. And instead of making you go from the bottom and work your way up, they're already at the top, but then you get to look back and work your way up through their memories. So right now, my initial experience with WWE 2K20 so far, fingers crossed, it's not bad. It's not a lot of problems that I haven't run into any real issues with it. I haven't tried out a lot of the modes. I usually make a specific character in the wrestling games, and I haven't sat down to do that yet. I just played a few hours worth of that my career mode, and I dabbled in some WWE Universe where you sort of set the rosters and simulate the matches, or play the matches if you want. But that's why I wait until these wrestling games are like $20 before I pick them up, because I'll download a bunch of created wrestlers, make a few, do a few things here and there, simulate some, a couple years through the universe mode, and then I put them down and I don't touch them again. Alright, let's see. Here's one of the next things that I've played this month and really loved it so far. I don't know how far I am into it, but it is Axiom Verge. I've been wanting to play this game for a long time. I bought the special edition thing that came out when it came to PS4. A very Metroid/Super Metroid style game. Really cool. I think the graphics are a little more on par with the 8-bit Metroid games, but I still really like it. Super Metroid is just a particular favorite of mine. I'm looking forward to Axiom Verge 2 coming out on physical. That's supposed to get a physical release from Limited Run Games at some point, I think in October. So I'm looking forward to getting that. But yeah, just having a lot of fun with this so far. It's right up that lane of Super Metroid. But I do like the fact that while it plays very similar, has similar style bosses and whatnot, and traversal level design, all the weapons and items that you use in this are different than what you get in like a Super Metroid. So it's been cool, like adapting to those different items and weapons and tools for this game. Need to get back to that here at some point. We got, the next couple of games are all games that I played, but I've kind of hit walls with, so I'll explain with each one. First of all, we got Dragon Quest Builders. I played some of this a long time ago. My daughter loves this game because it's Dragon Quest meets Minecraft. But I wanted to go back to it and play it because it was a lot of fun, and it seemed like maybe it would be simpler/easier than a straight-up Dragon Quest game. So I went back and I played it, and I put a lot of hours into this, and I'm in that initial place because you're this character that awakens, and you're told by like some godlike voice that you need to wake up and go out into the world. You're the only person who has the ability to create and build and design, and you need to reawaken those things in the people who are still in the land, reconquer the land, rebuild the cities, take everything back, and defend against evil. And so I go into the first starting level, or the starting area, and I'm building up the city. I got way further than I ever did before on it. And I'm having a lot of fun with this, but I'm like, does this just end with this first city? Or do I do this more often? Because I'm spending a lot of time in this first area, recruiting all these people. They kind of come out of the woodwork once you accomplish something in your city. And then they contribute ideas. They're inspired by what you do, and you build things for them. I'm going to say what it is that I've had a problem, though, with this game. The starting city area is like a big square, but the game never says that you have to build all the stuff that you do in that main square. So I got some things, and the game was like, you need to do this, build this watchtower, build this thing. Here's a design for like a little restaurant. And I'm like, this is cool. This is more stuff for my characters that are living in the city to mess around with. So I build this stuff sort of like on the outer corners or the outer edges of the main city. And I notice that they're not really ever going into those areas. Sometimes there's like a guard type character who will jump over the wall and defend against skeletons and other creatures. But a lot of the other characters roaming around in my little town are not going out some of these doors and going into the little restaurant or the watchtower that I built. And then I realized, I think, why that was happening when I get to the epic boss battle showdown for your first town. All through the beginning part of the game, you've been hearing that there's this golem, this created creature that was created in the old days to protect over the town from danger. And it's a very tropey, overused storyline, in my opinion, that when man creates a machine or an AI or a creature or whatever, and they program it to defend man from its greatest dangers, and then what does one of the greatest dangers end up being? Man. And so it destroys man because man is dangerous to man. It's like, it's kind of dumb. It had a punch to it the first few times that was bandied out there by whoever did it first. Doing it over and over and over again is just ad nauseum. Makes me, it makes me roll my eyes a bit when I hear another game or another story that says man creates something to protect man, that thing destroys man because man is going to destroy everything, yada yada yada. But you build your city up to the point where it re-attracts that thing back. That thing recognizes that man is coming back, and it needs to destroy man because man is destructive itself. And so the final boss battle of this initial area is this big golem thing coming to, go crazy on your town. And when it shows up, I guess so that you don't just run out into the world and run away from it, it creates like a big grid around your city that the golem will move around and try to attack your town. All these things that I had built, fortifications, walls, the restaurant, the watchtower, whatever, any of that stuff that was on the outside of the square that where your city is supposed to be disappears. Anything that I built that was cool, that I built around the outside of my city, is gone. It's not there to protect me. It's very restrictive. It's very limited. It's like the game wants you to pack all this shit into this little square, even though you can build stuff kind of like wherever you want. It's very disappointing. It actually, for a game that's Minecraft meets Dragon Quest, it felt to me like it really pulled the Minecraft right out of it. You should be able to build whatever you want, wherever you want, and then the boss should have to deal with that. The game shouldn't just say, nope, all you have is this little square, this little area. You can't really build all that stuff and put it into that little area without making every little room like a 4x4 or a 6x6 square. It was annoying to me. And in fighting against, and that's not even the reason why I have stopped playing it. You're supposed to build a specific kind of wall that you can hold like a shield, so when it shoots its boulders at you or whatever it is, you hold up that wall as a shield and it blocks it. And then it will stop at a certain point, and then you have these specific bombs that you adventured through the world to be able to create these specific bombs, and then once it stops, you have to run up to it, and maybe you deflect its attack back at it, and it gets hit a few times. I can't remember. It was frustrating to me, and I was being impatient, I guess. But once it stops in a certain place, you run up and drop one of those bombs at its feet. It blows up, it takes damage. Because it uses that janky Minecraft thing of like you have to be looking in a certain direction and a certain square lights up, and that's where you can place a thing or, swing your pickaxe and destroy a thing. And so when you're trying to run underneath this thing's feet that are at an angle, not squares, but at an angle, and you have to place the bomb in a square that it's not occupying, by the time you move around and get to a place where you drop the bomb, it has moved on with its attack cycle. And I did it so many times and could not put any of those bombs at its feet. And then eventually you run out of the bombs. And I got frustrated. I threw my hands in the air and I said, I'll come back to it later. But it's like, when I have games like this that I really want to get into, and I play them and I put them down, and I come back and play it, put it down, come back after years and put it down, it makes me feel a little bit like I'm not ever really going to finish that. But who knows? We'll see. Okay, the next thing I'm going to show is a game called Away, Journey to the Unexpected. This is another limited run games pickup from a while back. I looked at this game when it came up on their website, and I was like, this looks kind of interesting. It looked like a role-playing game with a first-person perspective, but very animated. So like a Fallout or a Skyrim, but with an animated style to it. I thought this should be fun, so I bought it. And then when I got the game, I realized it's not just like an RPG, first-person RPG game. It's got the roguelite. It's roguelite elements. Welcome to a feel-good FPS, a colorful adventure combining action, negotiation, and roguelite elements. So what this means is you start off the game in this house, and you're this character, and you're at your grandparents' place, I believe it is. And, you know, typical, you need to go check on a thing, and then that's going to lead you to fighting some creatures, and next thing you know, you're trying to save the day, protect the land, protect the people, whatever. So you have to go into the basement of the house because there was a loud sound. You discover that creatures have broken in through a wall, so you have to kill those creatures. And then you follow the hole that they made in the wall out into the main world, and then you're unleashed into your journey to the unexpected. You talk to a few people. Sometimes you can recruit them. I was having problems. There was only one person in the initial area that I thought I could recruit. Turns out I could have recruited 2 or 3 others. And they can come along with you and fight, and you have to go into a couple of like little caves or dungeons, kill some stuff, flip some switches, do some things. There's a shop that you can go buy some stuff at. And then you will move into the next area once you go into 3 caves and flip the switches. And you go into an area that's like a factory or something. But there's creatures and stuff there that you have to face. Meanwhile, all this time, you're trying to gauge in first person with your little stick that you have to attack with whether or not the creature that's over here is close enough to your swing, or whether or not you get a little closer but they're moving at you too, and then they bonk you. And you have hearts like in a Zelda game, 3 to start with if I remember right, and a couple of attacks and you're dead. And that's fine. That's kind of standard fare. But it's a roguelite. So that means that when you die, you aren't going to just respawn there. You are going to respawn back in the house, have to go back into the basement, kill those enemies again, come back out into the world, kill some more enemies, recruit that guy over there again if you're going to want him to be with you once more. I think you have an ability to switch back and forth between your main character and the people you can recruit. But I didn't really get to that point because the game hadn't really explained it to me well, or I'm just an idiot. But then you have to go back to those 3 caves, kill all those enemies in there again, flip those switches again to open back in there. Anywhere along that way, if you die, you go back. All you keep in this game basically is like your experience points, if I remember correctly. And that's fine. I'm not complaining that such a game, such a genre or style of game exists, but they're not really for me, and it's made it really tough for me to enjoy this game because I really want to. I'm having fun with it other than having to go do every goddamn thing again. I know there's only a few little areas that you go to. It's a short game, but the idea to me that every time you get killed, you have to go back and do all those areas again every time is ridiculous. I think the importance to me in like roguelikes or roguelites should be that you gain knowledge and experience that you need to move forward, but you wouldn't have to go through every damn step along the way. But that's just my ignorance to that type of gameplay style. It's why I want to buy Hades now that it's available on PS4, but I just know I'm not going to enjoy it because I'm going to have to continue to redo things and redo things and redo things, and that's just not appealing to me. So I don't know if this game's going to end up going back on the shelf and get put away for now, and maybe I'll try it again, maybe I'll never touch it. But yeah, I'm a little frustrated with it, and it's not a highly rated game, so I know that it's not going to be perfect, it's not going to be great. That just kind of does it in for me in a lot of ways. Okay, so here's a kind of another example of a game that I thought, well, let me just show what it is. This is Borderlands Game of the Year Edition. So I jumped into this recently, and I was like, I'm going to give it a chance, because I had been down on this game for years, ever since the first time this was shown in a Game Informer magazine, and it looked like a game like Rage. It looked like Mad Max. Like it had a realistic look, gritty, desert areas, lots of frenetic shooting and all that kind of stuff, but it looked realistic. And then the game kind of went dark for a while, and then when it came back, it had taken on the cel-shaded, zany, goofy look of all this shit, and I was really pissed. I was like, that was a game I was really looking forward to, and now they've ruined it for me, and just me. But I have to look at it from my point of view. When they changed it to this, I was bummed out. And so I never bought it or touched it on PS3 or 360. But I tried to convince myself as I got older and played more games under my belt. I was like, maybe I should give them a try. So I got the Game of the Year edition, and I got the Handsome Collection that has, it's 2 in the pre-sequel. And then I think at this point I also have Borderlands 3. I want to get Tales from the Borderlands. I want to have the whole collection, but I wanted to give this a shot, and I tried, and I just couldn't get into it. It just wasn't doing it for me. I don't even know why. It's like I just wasn't feeling the shooting. I wasn't feeling the sort of like endless birthing of enemies in the same spots. In that first area of the game, you're like in a little encampment, and then like around a hill or across a fence from where you're at, there's like a group of bad guys, and you go in there multiple times and kill them, and they just keep respawning. I don't want enemies that just keep respawning in games. Once you go in and kill something, it should be gone, and move on to the next area where there's enemies, and build, gather your experience, gain levels, new weapons, whatever. The gear, the loot cycle for these kind of games, sure, fine, whatever, but let me get into the next area and kill them, and then not have to go back and mess with that again. Every time I tried to go turn in a quest, there's like a guy who's right by the encampment that lives sort of like by a cliff, and every time you'd go over there, there'd be more of these little alien bug things that would come out, and you'd kill all of them to the point where they would stop, but the next time you get anywhere close to it, they'd come spilling back out again. Oh, I hate that. So for right now, Borderlands does go back onto the shelf, but I gave it a try. I tried to put some time into it, and it just didn't work for me. And then the last of the games that I played, but got stopped or didn't finish, is, to me, the worst of the bunch in terms of how much I wanted to play this, how much I wanted to love it, and I was loving it, but it's Lego City Undercover. This game is 15 chapters. It's sort of like a GTA, but in Lego. It's really fun. I was enjoying it. It's corny humor and one-liners, and everything's over the top, but it's a Lego game, so I kind of expect that. I'm not a big Lego game fan, but this is one of them that I was really hoping would do something for me, and it is. But there's 15 chapters through the game, and I was on the 5th chapter. I'd put about 7 hours into it, and the game froze, or it actually it kicked me out. It glitched, kicked me out to the main screen, and did the blue screen thing of, like, oh, the game shut down improperly, yada, yada, yada. I was like, oh, okay, well, let's just go back in and we'll resume our last save file. For the first time ever with my PS4, when I got back into the save file was corrupted. Not through any fault of my own, not any of that bullshit of like the power going down. I didn't pull the plug on it while it was in the middle of saving. None of that nonsense that happens that you either dumb if you do some of those things or you have no control over it. No, this one the game just glitched, kicked me out, blue screen for a moment, reported the thing, went back into the game, save file corrupted. And there's no way in this game that I was able to find where you can save in multiple slots. It just saves to the one slot, and if it gets fucked up like it did on my game, it's gone. And so I was like, I'm not going to go back and put 7 hours into the beginning of this again. Not right now, because I've been burned, and I'm not feeling it. And so I haven't went back to it. I will eventually, though. It's one of these games in this pile that I am for sure, well, actually in Verge, definitely, and 2K20 eventually. But Lego City Undercover, more than any of the rest of them, I was like, I'm having a good time with this. This is going to be a nice, fun little diversion from everything else, and I'll get a good completion out of it. And then it did that shit, and really, I'm sure lots of people can relate to that, and good on you if you're able to pull your big boy pants back on and say, I'm going right back into it. But I'll have to save that for another time when I'm not playing a big open world game or a big JRPG or something like that. Alright, so that brings me to the 2 game completions that I did. 3. Excuse me, 3. Oh, never mind. Before I get to the completions, I had one more thing I did want to talk about in games that I played this last month. And that was the Riders Republic beta. The open beta was on the PS4 at the tail end of the month. So I downloaded it and jumped in, wanted to see how it felt when compared to something like Steep, which is the previous Ubisoft, extreme sports game. But although that was all skiing, skateboarding, wingsuiting, yada, 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 this one adds downhill bike racing, snowboarding. Well, snowboarding is in it as well. All kinds of stuff. Snowmobiling. Snowmobiling is mainly for transportation purposes, but that was actually what I ended up doing the most, was just zipping around in the snowmobile, and even out of the snow areas, just to goof off. It's just a goofy game. It's just a game to go in and do some tricks, do some races, whatever. There are some icons that'll pop up on the map when you enter into a new region. It's got a huge map. I was really impressed by the size of the map. You get into a certain area, and then if you're close enough to certain landmarks or special things, they'll pop up on your map. One of the things that you can go do is just literally you go to a spot and you click the button, and it kind of shows you the environment and the mountains, the lakes, the streams, whatever. It'll give you a look, and it'll give you a little rundown of like, oh, you're looking at this mountain peak, or you're looking at this lake. And you earn those. They sort of like give you coins or just a level marker. And once you earn so many, then it opens up new events and new things that you can do. It was only a couple of days. I really only played like 2 days. I enjoyed it, but I was definitely like, yeah, this is not a full price game by any means. And I imagine that performance-wise, it'll be better on PS5 than it will be on PS4. It wasn't horrible on the PS4, but there were times when it felt like it kind of lurched a little bit. But the number of people that were playing during this beta, you can look at the map and kind of zoom in, and it shows you these little icons of where people are skiing down a hill or flying down this thing and doing a race or whatever. It was just like an ant pile just spilling out all over the place. So it was fun. I would not recommend it as, like I said, a full price game unless you're just really into those kinds of games. Okay, so now I'll talk about the games that I beat. And I actually had 3 games that I beat in August. I forgot one. One's kind of a cheat though. One is this game that was called. I had this pulled up at one point and I forgot to keep it up on my phone. So I'm going to scramble real quick to look this up so I get the name right. Okay, because it's called Legends of Talia Arcadia. One of the Facebook groups that I was in, somebody shared a post and they were like, look at this game, you can basically buy a platinum trophy. And I thought, have we really gotten to that point now where you just basically pay to pop a platinum? No, it wasn't that. There are some games that really quickly and easily you can get a platinum for. This just happened to be an example of it. It's a visual novel, very anime, very fan servicey, and it's my first visual novel. Even though I own have several in my collection, it's the first time I've ever actually played a game that's called a visual novel. What it was, the reason why it came up in the Facebook group, because you can go into the options before you've even played the game, and you can set text and dialogue and all this stuff to maximum speed and to automatically play through the dialogue thing, so you don't even have to press a button to exit out of one dialogue bubble into the next. And then if you hit start, then the game just goes whoosh, you see the screens and the dialogue just goes brr, 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 and in a matter of just a couple of minutes it can reach the end of the game and pop the platinum trophy, because all you have to do is just progress through each area, get a trophy, boom, you got the platinum. I wasn't going to do that, but since it was only like $1.50, I downloaded the game and I played through it. But I actually listened to it. I saw what the story was, just sort of like, I don't know if it's old-fashioned to call a buff anime chick something that's like Amazonian, but she's like this badass anime warrior chick and lady. Excuse me, chick is probably not a appropriate term anymore. Maybe it's not. Maybe I'm overthinking it, but she goes out into the world. She's been on her own for a long time. She kind of doesn't really care about other people. She does her job. She defends people, but she doesn't want to be seen as the hero that she is seen by most people. And she kind of was present when a village got destroyed, but she wasn't in the village when it happened. And when she did come to the village, it was already destroyed. Just about everybody was dead. And she just left those who were still there to die, because she was like, there's no reason to try to save them, they're already too far gone. And so she left. Well, one of those people didn't actually die, and they had looked up to her as a hero, but then they burned with rage and revenge for years. And it's the story about how you kind of get roped into dealing with that person and trying to show them who you really are, and just, I don't know, learn about your character, see some character development, yada, 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 in a game that if you actually do play it only takes a couple of hours to get through its story. And, once again, it's a visual novel. Now I understand a little bit more. It's just kind of like press a button, dialogue, press a button, dialogue, scene change. Maybe it's animated, maybe it's whatever. In the case of this game, it was like you'd see a new background and then the character would pop up, dialogue on the screen, you'd hear the voice talking, and then you press a button to advance. There's no QTEs, there's no actual combat, there's nothing at all. It's just telling you a story in a little bit more of a interactive way. And then it ends on a kind of fan servicey note. But I'm also not super qualified, I guess, to maybe deem what is fan service and not. I just always figured that when there's a lot of cleavage and a lot of ass shots and a lot of buff dudes and all that kind of stuff, that doesn't seem to have any point in it, then that's kind of fan service. But it was fine. For paying $1 and change, I didn't have a problem with paying $1 and change. I don't think I would jump on a bunch more of those in the future if I saw them, though, just because they were cheap. But it did give me my 10th platinum, overall. So there's something. But now that was Legends of Talia Arcadia. I keep thinking it's a Tales of game, and there's already a Tales of series. And then the next game that I beat for the month was Observer System Redux. This was a pretty fun game. I enjoyed it. This is from Bloober Team. These are the guys that did Layers of Fear, which I enjoyed. They did the Blair Witch game, which I have, but I haven't played it yet. They did this. I think they did something else. I think I was thinking about this the last time when I showed this in a pickups video. But this was really, really good for a cyberpunk style game, but also psychological horror, and lots of craziness going on screen because of your ability to jack into people's minds. But when you jack into their minds, the world looks even more distorted than it does normally. It was pretty good. Rutger Hauer played the main character. He's gone now, rest in peace. But he wasn't too bad in this. But I guess my issue would be that at the time that he did the vocals for this, he was in his 70s or something like that. But he seemed like he was playing a character who was supposed to be about 40 or 50. But he did, in my opinion, sound older. I've seen some movies with him in it, and that's what I'm basing my comparison on, is what I remember him sounding like when he was a younger guy compared to this. And it sometimes he read his lines with great conviction and sounded like he really meant it, and then other times it felt like his performance was a little phoned in. So it's hard to say, but it was an interesting story. There was a lot of secrets and trophies that I missed in it that I wish I could have. I think this has a platinum that's doable for someone like me, but I don't really want to run through the handful of hours I spent on this game. I want to say I probably put about 10 hours or so into it, but super worth it. Really good game. Very, very, very good game, and somewhere down the road I'll play it again and try to catch the other trophies. And then that brings me to the last game that I played. I beat that Legends of Talia game on August 3rd. I beat Observer on August 6th. Then I beat the next game on my list August 30th. But it wasn't a long game. The meat of the middle part of the month was me playing stuff like Dragon Quest and Axiom Verge and WWE 2K20 and Lego. This game took me one sitting, about 7 hours to finish it. But I also just recently showed this in one of my all-time favorite games videos. This was number 25 on my list, but this was Phantasmagoria, A Puzzle of Flesh. I had downloaded it on Steam this year sometime, I believe, or it could have even been further back. But I was like, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to play this. Last few times I've tried to play it, I've ran into some technical issues, probably because of the age of the game. But the Steam version worked great, and I was able to get through it. And then I discovered that the guy who plays your main character in this game, Curtis Craig, which is Paul Stetler something. I'm looking this up real quick because I want to make sure I get it right. Whoops. There it is. Paul Morgan Stetler. Paul Morgan Stetler, the guy here. That's probably really washed out on the screen. It looks like it from here anyway. Anyway, the guy who played the main character in the game has recently resurfaced on YouTube to celebrate the 25th anniversary of the game, which I think is almost upon us. I think that's sometime this month. When I exited out. It's hilarious. I exited out of the game. It wasn't on the screen. It wasn't on the screen when I started the game, but it was on the screen. I'm trying to look this up. Spending too much time looking at the phone and not just doing the video. But you'll have to excuse me. I like to give this information while I'm sitting here and not think about it later on. I am trying to look up when the sequel did actually come out. Oh, November 26th. So we've got about, what is that, 2.5 months, roughly. 2 months, 3 weeks. Anyway, when I finished playing the game, the Steam screen for the game was showing me this thing called Conversations with Curtis. And I was like, what is up with that? What is this? So I clicked on it and started looking into it. And like I said, it was Paul Stetler Morgan, or Paul Morgan Stetler. I've already lost what I was looking up here. Paul Morgan Stetler. Paul Morgan Stetler is on YouTube on a channel called Conversations with Curtis, and he's been doing interviews with some of the other cast members, and one video was with the composer of the music. I've only watched one of the videos so far because they're lengthy, but it's just fantastic to see these guys. This crazy, obscure game with a bunch of actors in it, that only one of which, like, I'm aware of them ever doing anything other than this game. They do this game back in the 90s in a genre that kind of died away after a few years, that always stuck with me for all these years, no matter how corny, schlocky, B-movie level, low budget, et cetera, et cetera. It stuck with me so much that, it, like I said, it's number 25 on my all-time top 30 favorite video games. I decided I want to sit down and play it because I recently did that video and formulated that list in the past year. And then people from that game on YouTube, talking with people. I'm on the Discord for it. It's like really, really cool. It's cool to see that character that's on the screen that was always just an actor in this video game is now just a message away from me on Discord from responding to something that I've said. So it's really, really awesome. I had a lot of fun sitting down and playing that game, especially, like I said, being able to just play it all in one sitting, basically. So, probably the highlight of my month in terms of the games I've been playing and games that I beat. And so, yeah, that's everything. That's all of the August, and some of that was a little bit of July, but this is my first monthly roundup in quite a while, so I wanted to reach back a little bit further into some stuff that I played. And if anybody can make out what's on the screen here right now, that's something that will be in the September Roundup video. But it's a game I'm having some fun with. I'm enjoying right now. So anyways, that's about it. So I'll stop talking, and we'll talk to you in the next one.